Ever wondered what happens to your body when you hit pause on sex? Like, does everything just reset or what? I feel like there are so many myths and assumptions floating around. We're going to go beyond those surface level ideas today and really get into the nitty gritty, the precise realities of sexual abstinence. Basically, separating fact from fiction when it comes to abstaining from sexual activity just for you.
Yeah, there really are a ton of beliefs about this topic, many of them pretty ingrained in our culture. We're
Mm.
going to try to help you sift through those and see what the science, the actual biology tells us about abstaining from sex.
All right, well, let's just jump right into it with one of the biggest ones out there, this whole concept of a woman regaining her virginity.
This is a really interesting one because there's such a contrast between the common perception and what's actually happening physically. Medically speaking, the idea of a woman physically regaining her virginity just isn't accurate. A lot of the confusion stems from the hymen.
Right, the hymen. It's almost become this symbolic thing.
Exactly. And what's important to understand is that this thin bit of tissue around the vaginal opening, it can be affected by so many things. It's not just about intercourse. Think about things like playing sports, using tampons, even just general movement over time. All of these can impact it. And here's the key. The hymen doesn't regenerate. Once it's been altered, it doesn't grow back.
So even if someone feels like they're going back to a certain state by abstaining from sex, their hymen isn't going to magically revert back.
Nope. So while abstaining can definitely hold personal significance for someone's emotional or spiritual journey, biologically speaking, the idea of physically regaining virginity is a myth.
Okay, that definitely clears things up. It makes you realize how much of this is tied to cultural beliefs rather than actual biology.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I think a lot of people wonder about is how abstinence impacts the menstrual cycle, and the ovaries. Does taking a break from sex somehow throw things off?
It's a logical question. But when we look at how the female reproductive system actually works, the answer is a clear no. The menstrual cycle is all about hormones, mainly estrogen and progesterone. These hormones fluctuate in a cyclical pattern, completely independent of sexual activity.
So there's absolutely no biological connection between the two.
None at all. And the same goes for ovulation. When an egg is released each month, that's also triggered by those hormonal fluctuations. Abstinence doesn't interfere with any of those signals. Your ovaries are going to keep doing their thing, and your cycle's going to continue as usual, totally unaffected by whether or not you're having sex. These are fundamental biological processes that don't rely on sexual activity to function.
That's super helpful to know. All right, so we've covered the hymen, the menstrual cycle. Let's talk about libido, that feeling of desire. What happens to that when you abstain from sex? Does it just disappear or does it build up?
This is where things get a little more complex,
Mm.
right? Because libido is influenced by so many factors, not just one thing. Hormones are definitely a major player. Testosterone is a key one for both men and women, and of course estrogen plays a role in women as well. But beyond that, things like your stress levels, how healthy you are overall, even just your mental and emotional state, all of those have a huge impact on your libido.
So it's not as simple as saying, well, if you don't have sex, your libido will do X.
Exactly. It's not a simple equation. When it comes to abstinence specifically, what we see is that people have really different experiences.
Hmm.
For some, prolonged abstinence might lead to a temporary decrease in libido. It's almost like your body adjusts to not having that specific type of stimulation.
Kind of a use it or lose it sort of thing, but just temporarily.
You can think of it that way. But for others, they might experience a kind of initial surge in desire, a buildup of energy. Again, everyone's different. And even that initial increase might eventually level off for some people after a longer period of abstinence. So there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to how libido changes with abstinence.
Makes sense, given all the factors involved. Okay, so let's get a little more specific now and talk about physical changes that women might experience. What happens in their body when they abstain from sex for a while?
Okay, so one of the more notable things for women specifically concerns vaginal lubrication and elasticity. Regular sex can help keep things, running smoothly in that area.
Hmm.
So if you abstain for a long time, you might notice a decrease in your natural lubrication. The vagina might also become a little less elastic, less able to stretch comfortably.
And could that lead to some, I don't know, discomfort, I guess, when sexual activity eventually resumes?
Yeah, it could cause some initial discomfort, but it's important to remember that it's usually temporary. As soon as you start having sex regularly again, things tend to go back to normal pretty quickly.
Okay, good to know. Now, what about those UTIs? I remember reading something about a potential connection there.
You're right. There's a theory that regular sex can actually help flush bacteria out of the urethra. which could mean a lower risk of UTIs for some women. So in theory, abstaining for a long time could slightly increase that risk, although it's not a guarantee.
Hmm.
And thinking about it like any other muscle in your body, the pelvic floor muscles also benefit from regular use. Without the kind of engagement that happens during sex, they might weaken a bit over time, but the good news is you can definitely counteract that with exercise.
Gotcha. So it sounds like a lot of these changes are temporary and things your body can bounce back from. What about for men? What are the physical effects of abstinence for them?
We definitely need to talk about that. It's just as important, but maybe not discussed as often. So for men, the body continues to produce sperm regardless of whether they're having sex. So naturally, a lot of guys wonder, what happens to all that sperm? It gets reabsorbed by the body. Simple as that.
So it's not like it just builds up and builds up until, well.
Nope, nothing that dramatic. Your body has its ways of taking care of things. Another thing that's common for men who are abstaining is something called nocturnal emissions. You might know them as wet dreams. It's just a natural way for the body to release excess sperm. Totally normal, totally healthy.
Right, that makes sense from a biological standpoint. What about this idea that men need to ejaculate regularly to stay healthy? Is there any truth to that?
It's definitely a common belief, but it's actually a misconception. There's no medical reason why men need to ejaculate regularly to maintain good health. Of course, it's a natural and often enjoyable part of sex, but your body isn't going to malfunction or suffer just because you're not ejaculating.
Good to clear that up. Okay, so let's say someone's been abstaining from sex for a while and they decide they want to become sexually active again. Is it like riding a bike, or is there a kind of adjustment period?
For the most part, your body is really good at adapting. Like we were talking about with women, the vagina usually regains its lubrication and elasticity pretty quickly once sexual activity resumes. If there's any initial discomfort, it usually fades as your body gets used to things again.
Are there any important things to keep in mind for both men and women when they're getting back into the swing of things, so to speak?
Absolutely. Open communication with your partner is essential, probably more than ever in that situation. It's all about making sure everyone feels comfortable and enjoys the experience. Take things at a pace that feels right for both of you, and don't hesitate to talk about any concerns or even just new sensations you might be experiencing. It's about reconnecting both physically and emotionally in a way that works for everyone involved.
Communication is key, as always. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the physical stuff, but abstinence isn't just about the physical, right? There's a whole emotional and psychological side to it as well.
You're absolutely right. We can't ignore that. And again, everyone's going to have their own unique experience with those aspects. For some people, choosing to abstain can be really empowering. It might help them focus on other areas of their life, their personal growth, things like that. They might feel like they're more in tune with their values or just more self-aware in general.
So it can definitely be a positive and deliberate choice for some people.
Definitely. On the other hand, abstinence isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's due to circumstances. And in those cases, it can lead to feelings of loneliness, isolation, maybe even frustration and stress. It's important to acknowledge that our sexual needs and desires are a part of us, and when they're not being met, it can take an emotional toll.
So how can people deal with those emotional challenges in a healthy way?
Well, having healthy coping mechanisms is super important. Exercise is always a great option. It's good for your mind and body. Mindfulness practices, like meditation, can be super helpful for managing stress and regulating your emotions. And of course, having a good support system in place is key. Whether it's friends, family, a therapist talking about how you're feeling can make a world of difference. Taking care of your overall well-being is really crucial during times of abstinence.
So if we look at everything we've discussed, it seems like a lot of the common beliefs about how abstinence affects the body are more myth than fact. And while there can be some physical and emotional adjustments, our bodies are pretty adaptable and resilient, wouldn't you say?
That's a great way to sum it up. And the bottom line is that everyone's experience with abstinence is going to be different. There's no one right way to feel or react.
Totally. And if any of you listening are worried about your sexual health, maybe specifically related to abstaining or becoming sexually active again, what's the best thing to do?
Don't hesitate to talk to a doctor. They can give you personalized advice based on your individual situation and concerns.
Great advice. At the end of the day, it's all about understanding your body and making choices that are right for you and your well-being.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Hopefully our little deep dive here has shed some light on this topic for you.
For sure. Thanks so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise on the realities of sexual abstinence.
It was my pleasure.
And for all you amazing listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe for more healthy